What happens when an adult cartoon makes a joke so dangerous that a network pretends the episode never existed? Some shows were buried after protests. Others caused lawsuits, government anger, or nationwide panic. A few vanished from television even though millions had already watched them. These are not cartoons that simply failed. Before we begin, like this video and share it with someone who remembers when cartoons were allowed to take real risks. And subscribe to the channel, because number 1 became so controversial that even saying its subject caused entire scenes to disappear. Number 17. American Dad. Minstrel Krampus. It was supposed to be American Dad's Christmas episode for 2012. Then a real tragedy made its planned broadcast feel impossible. The story begins when Steve becomes selfish and disrespectful during the holiday season. His grandfather tells him about Krampus, a creature who punishes badly behaved children. Stan originally believes the story is nonsense, but Steve is soon captured and taken to Krampus's castle. Stan joins forces with Santa Claus and launches a rescue mission. What follows is less like a gentle Christmas special and more like an animated action movie. Santa and his helpers arrive heavily prepared, the castle is attacked, and the characters battle through rooms, while musical numbers explain Krampus's history. The episode's most memorable moment comes when the truth about Krampus is revealed. He is not simply an evil monster. He believes he is teaching children to appreciate their families. Santa, supposedly the symbol of Christmas kindness, is shown as the more aggressive figure. Minstrel Krampus was originally scheduled for December 16, 2012. 2 days before that date, the school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, took the lives of children and educators. Because the episode contained a large attack involving weapons and a story centered on children, Fox replaced it with a repeat. The cartoon was not permanently banned, but it disappeared for an entire year. It finally aired in December 2013. That delay changed how audiences saw the episode. What had been written as an absurd holiday adventure became an example of how quickly a television network can hide completed entertainment when fictional images suddenly resemble real pain. Number 16. The Simpsons. The City of New York versus Homer Simpson. For years, The City of New York versus Homer Simpson was considered one of the show's funniest travel episodes. After September 11, 2001, it became almost impossible to broadcast. The story begins when Barney takes Homer's car and disappears. Months later, the family learns that the vehicle has been abandoned in New York City, directly outside the World Trade Center. While Marge and the children enjoy Manhattan, Homer must stay beside the car and wait for an officer to remove a wheel clamp. His day becomes increasingly miserable as he becomes thirsty, receives another ticket, and struggles to find a bathroom. The episode's most remembered scene places Homer between the Twin Towers. After drinking too much crab juice, he races to the top of one tower, discovers that its public bathroom is closed, and must rush across the plaza to the other building. Two workers also shout insults at each other from opposite towers. After the attacks of September 11th, the World Trade Center was no longer simply a famous New York location. The episode's long sequences around the buildings became painful for many viewers and uncomfortable for broadcasters. Fox affiliates and syndication packages removed the episode in numerous markets. It did not vanish forever, but it was absent from regular television for years. When it gradually returned, some broadcasts edited particular jokes involving the towers. Nothing inside the cartoon had changed. The real world had changed around it. A harmless comedy made in 1997 had become a sensitive television artifact almost overnight, proving that an episode can be erased without its creators doing anything wrong. Number 15. Family Guy. Turban Cowboy. This was removed from streaming because two unrelated scenes were edited together online to create a disturbing lie. In the episode, Peter Griffin becomes friends with a man named Mahmoud after meeting him at a workplace. Peter believes he has found a friendly new social group. He does not understand that Mahmoud and his associates are planning an attack. The most controversial original joke is not connected to that main plot. Peter describes winning the Boston Marathon by driving his car through the race, knocking runners out of his path. Later in the episode, Mahmoud gives Peter a mobile phone connected to explosives. Peter presses buttons without understanding what they control, causing distant blasts. About a month after the episode aired, the Boston Marathon bombing occurred. Someone combined the marathon scene and the telephone scene into one edited video. The false clip made it appear that Family Guy had shown Peter setting off explosions at the marathon. The video spread rapidly through conspiracy websites and social media. Creator Seth MacFarlane condemned it and expressed sympathy for those affected by the real attack. Fox responded by pulling Turban Cowboy from its website and streaming platforms, including Hulu. The network also said it had no immediate plans to broadcast the episode again. YouTube removed copies of the manipulated clip. The episode eventually returned to streaming years later, but for a long period it was treated like forbidden material. Family Guy had not predicted the attack. 2 jokes had been rearranged by someone outside the show, yet the complete episode still paid the price. Number 14. Beavis and Butthead, comedians. Few cartoons have been blamed for a real tragedy as directly as Beavis and Butthead's comedians. In the episode, the 2 teenagers see a television program about a wealthy stand-up performer. Believing comedy is an easy path to money, they visit a local club and attempt to perform. Butthead tells terrible jokes and is quickly booed away. Beavis then takes the stage and tries to entertain the crowd by juggling burning newspapers. The audience leaves, the flames spread, and the entire comedy club catches fire. Beavis and Butthead watch from outside, still believing that they have delivered a successful performance. 1 month after the episode aired in 1993, a 5-year-old Ohio boy used a lighter and started a trailer fire that killed his younger sister. The children's mother claimed that her son had been influenced by Beavis and Butthead. The accusation produced national anger. MTV moved the series to a later time, added warnings, removed many references to fire from other episodes, and pulled comedians from normal broadcast rotation. Years later, the boy involved said that his family did not have cable television and that he had never watched the series. Neighbors had reportedly made the same point at the time. However, that information could not reverse the public panic that had already changed the show. Beavis's excited fire chant, once one of his main characteristics, was suddenly restricted. Comedians became a locked-away episode, blamed for an event that its supposed viewer may never have even seen. Number 13. The Ren and Stimpy Show, Man's Best Friend. Nickelodeon wanted Ren and Stimpy to be strange. Man's Best Friend showed the network exactly how strange the cartoon could become. In the episode, Ren and Stimpy are adopted by George Liquor, an aggressive man who believes pets must obey strict rules. He forces them to sleep in uncomfortable positions, follow endless commands, and complete painful training exercises. Ren slowly becomes overwhelmed by anger. The most infamous scene begins when George orders him to protect the house. Ren grabs a wooden oar and attacks George repeatedly, while Stimpy watches in confusion. The sequence is long, intense, and deliberately uncomfortable. There is no realistic blood, but the force and timing made it far stronger than normal children's animation. Nickelodeon also objected to jokes involving questionable-looking dog treats and references considered inappropriate for younger viewers. The episode was completed but removed before its planned broadcast in 1992. The dispute became part of a larger breakdown between creator John Kricfalusi and Nickelodeon. The network said missed deadlines were a major concern, while Kricfalusi believed executives were trying to weaken the show. He and several employees were removed from production. Man's Best Friend remained officially unseen for years. It was finally broadcast in 2003 on Spike TV as part of the adult Ren and Stimpy revival, and later appeared on DVD. By then, its reputation had become greater than the episode itself. Viewers were not simply watching a cartoon, they were watching the scene Nickelodeon had once considered too dangerous to place beside its children's programming. Number 12. The Boondocks, The Hunger Strike, and the Uncle Ruckus reality show. The Boondocks regularly criticized American politics, entertainment, and racial stereotypes. However, 2 episodes aimed so directly at the BET television network that they disappeared before their scheduled broadcasts. In The Hunger Strike, Huey Freeman begins protesting BET. He believes its programs promote damaging images while pretending to celebrate black culture. Huey starts a public hunger strike, but he struggles to attract meaningful attention because celebrities, businesses, and news organizations care more about publicity. The episode's sharpest scene shows BET executives discussing how to make their programs even more embarrassing. They behave like cartoon villains who understand exactly what they are doing and are proud of it. The Uncle Ruckus reality show follows BET producers as they give Uncle Ruckus his own program. Ruckus eagerly performs for the cameras, while executives manipulate his behavior into increasingly insulting entertainment. Both episodes were highly critical of BET executives, including network president Deborah Lee. They were scheduled as part of the second season, but did not air on Adult Swim in the United States. Reports claimed that BET had pressured Sony and discussed legal action. Cartoon Network denied being contacted by BET and did not publicly confirm that the rival network caused the removal. Whatever happened behind the scenes, the result was clear. American television viewers did not receive the episodes with the rest of the season. They were eventually released on DVD, allowing audiences to see what had been withheld. The attempted erasure only strengthened their message. Corporations may support satire until the satire names the corporation. Number 11. The Boondocks. The Story of Jimmy Rebel. The Story of Jimmy Rebel aired on television, appeared on streaming services, and then was permanently retired because its satire was considered too difficult to separate from the material it was attacking. The story focuses on Uncle Ruckus, a black man who openly hates his own community and admires racist ideas. Ruckus is a huge fan of Jimmy Rebel, a country singer known for deeply offensive songs. When Ruckus finally meets his hero, the two become friends and begin creating music together. Jimmy initially believes Ruckus is a white man because of their letters. His confusion after meeting Ruckus becomes one of the episode's central jokes. The most memorable scene features Ruckus and Jimmy performing together in a recording studio. The sequence is intended to expose the ugliness and absurdity of racial hatred. However, the songs use deliberately extreme language and images to make that argument. For years, the episode circulated as part of the series. In 2020, Adult Swim reviewed older programs during a wider debate about harmful stereotypes in entertainment. The network permanently retired The Story of Jimmy Rebel from its streaming library because of cultural sensitivities. It was removed from HBO Max and future broadcast rotation, although older physical releases still existed. The decision created a complicated question. The episode did not present Jimmy Rebel as admirable. He and Ruckus were the targets of the joke. But Adult Swim decided that intention was not enough to justify keeping the material easily available. A cartoon designed to attack racism was therefore erased because its method of showing racism was judged too extreme for modern distribution. Number 10. Family Guy. When You Wish Upon a Weinstein. Family Guy's first major banned episode was completed before the show's original cancellation, but Fox refused to broadcast it. The story begins when Peter loses the family's emergency money through a foolish decision. After meeting a successful Jewish man named Max Weinstein, Peter develops the offensive belief that every Jewish person must be naturally skilled with finances. Peter then tries to find a Jewish advisor who can solve all his problems. The episode is designed to show Peter's ignorance, but Fox executives worried that viewers would focus on the stereotypes rather than the criticism. The most famous sequence is Peter's musical number, I Need a Jew. Its melody closely copies When You Wish Upon a Star, while Peter sings about his search for financial help. The performance is intentionally ridiculous, but its language and familiar tune created two separate controversies. Fox refused to air the episode during the original run. It finally premiered on Adult Swim in 2003 and later aired on Fox after Family Guy returned to production. Then Bourne Company, the copyright owner of When You Wish Upon a Star, sued the producers. The company argued that Family Guy had copied too much of the famous song and wanted distribution stopped. A federal court ruled that the number was a parody protected by fair use. The song was similar because it needed to remind viewers of the original before reversing its meaning. The episode therefore survived both censorship and a lawsuit. What Fox once considered too risky for television later became an important example of legal protection for comedy and parody. Number 9. Family Guy. The Carol Burnett Lawsuit. A scene lasting less than 20 seconds led Carol Burnett to demand millions of dollars from the producers of Family Guy. The controversy appears in Peterotica, an episode in which Peter begins writing adult novels after reading a book loaned to him by Quagmire. His stories become popular, but everything collapses when a listener copies a dangerous scene and suffers an injury. During a separate cutaway joke, the characters enter an adult store and notice that it is unusually clean. Quagmire explains that Carol Burnett works there as a cleaner. The scene then shows an animated version of Burnett's famous charwoman character mopping the floor beside embarrassing products, while music resembling the Carol Burnett Show theme plays. Burnett had previously refused permission for Family Guy to use the character and music. She argued that Fox used them anyway, damaged her reputation, violated her rights, and infringed protected material. Her lawsuit requested at least $2 million, with some reports placing the complete demand much higher. The case could have created serious problems for animated shows that imitate famous performers. A federal judge dismissed the lawsuit. The court found that Family Guy's scene was a crude but recognizable parody, protected by the First Amendment. The judge was not exactly kind to the writers. The ruling criticized the quality of the joke while still defending the show's legal right to make it. That distinction mattered. Courts do not protect comedy because every joke is intelligent or respectful. They protect it because allowing famous people to erase every insulting imitation would make cultural satire nearly impossible. Family Guy won, but the embarrassing scene became far more famous than it had been before the lawsuit. Number 8. Family Guy. The Art Metrano lawsuit. Family Guy faced another major legal challenge after turning comedian Art Metrano's signature routine into a joke involving Jesus. Metrano's stage act was built around simple magic tricks. He would perform familiar illusions while humming a recognizable tune, creating comedy from the serious way he presented extremely basic tricks. Family Guy copied the rhythm, music, and movements for a sequence in Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story. In the scene, Jesus performs the routine for his followers. He moves his fingers, pretends to transfer objects between his hands, and acts as though the small tricks are miracles. The cartoon's target appears to be the followers, who are amazed by a performance the audience knows is simple. Metrano believed the show had copied the heart of his act without permission. He filed a copyright lawsuit seeking millions of dollars. Fox argued that the scene was a parody and therefore protected. However, the court found an important problem with that defense. Unlike the Carol Burnett scene, the joke was not clearly criticizing Metrano or his performance. The humor was aimed at Jesus and the people watching him. That made it harder to explain why Family Guy needed to copy Metrano's specific routine. The judge refused to dismiss the case at an early stage, allowing the lawsuit to continue. The two sides eventually reached an out-of-court settlement in 2010, with the terms remaining private. Family Guy had survived several legal complaints, but this case showed that adding a famous routine to an unrelated joke can be risky. Calling something a parody does not automatically protect it when the original work is only being used as a convenient comedy tool. Number 7. South Park. Trapped in the Closet. Trapped in the Closet attacked Scientology so directly that every person in the closing credits was listed under a false name. The episode begins when Stan takes a personality test and is told that he is deeply unhappy. Scientologists convince him to join their church and later claim that he has an unusually powerful spiritual level. Senior members begin believing Stan is the new version of Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. Celebrities, including Tom Cruise and John Travolta, gather outside Stan's house. Cruise eventually hides inside Stan's bedroom closet and refuses to come out. That repeated closet scene became one of South Park's most famous jokes. However, the episode's strongest moment is an animated explanation of Scientology's secret origin story. A message on screen tells viewers that the organization genuinely teaches the story being shown. After the episode aired, voice actor Isaac Hayes, a Scientologist who played Chef, left the series. Trey Parker and Matt Stone accused him of accepting religious jokes until his own beliefs became the target. A scheduled rerun was abruptly replaced in March 2006. Reports suggested that Tom Cruise had pressured Comedy Central's parent company, Paramount, because he was promoting Mission Impossible 3. Cruise and the companies involved denied that explanation. The episode eventually returned, but the temporary disappearance created the exact publicity the network may have hoped to avoid. Knowing Scientology's reputation for legal action, the producers credited the episode's staff as John Smith and Jane Smith. At the end, Stan challenges the organization to sue him. Nobody did, but the cartoon still caused a cast departure, a pulled rerun, and years of argument. Number 6. South Park. Cartoon Wars. Cartoon Wars asked whether a television network should censor a cartoon because someone might respond with anger. Comedy Central answered the question by censoring the cartoon. The two-part story begins when Family Guy plans to show an image of the Prophet Muhammad. The announcement creates nationwide fear. Cartman travels to Hollywood, claiming he wants to stop the episode for public safety. His real reason is that he hates Family Guy and wants the entire series canceled. Kyle follows him because he believes surrendering to threats will make future expression impossible. Their argument becomes a debate about where television networks draw their limits. The most famous sequence shows the Family Guy writing room as a tank filled with manatees. The animals choose random idea balls and combine them into jokes, suggesting that Family Guy stories are created without logic. Near the ending, Muhammad is supposed to appear in a harmless scene. Instead, Comedy Central inserts a black screen, explaining that the network has refused to broadcast the image. The network said its decision was based on public safety concerns following international anger over newspaper cartoons published in Europe. Parker and Stone argued that Comedy Central was applying different rules to different religions. The censored version aired, but the controversy did not end there. Both Cartoon Wars episodes were later removed from major streaming services along with other South Park stories involving Muhammad. The result was almost too perfect. South Park created a story warning that fear could control television. Then the network demonstrated the exact fear the story was criticizing, transforming the censorship notice into the episode's most powerful joke. Number 5. South Park. Super Best Friends. Super Best Friends aired in 2001 with surprisingly little controversy. Nearly a decade later, it disappeared. The episode begins when magician David Blaine arrives in South Park and attracts local children to a strange religious movement called Blaintology. Stan becomes worried after Kyle joins the group and begins following its rules without question. Stan asks Jesus for help. Jesus then gathers a team of religious figures known as the Super Best Friends. The group includes Buddha, Moses, Krishna, Joseph Smith, Laozi, Seaman, and the Prophet Muhammad. The characters behave like a superhero team. Each religious figure has a special ability, and they work together to stop Blaine's plan. The most memorable scene shows the team introducing themselves in the style of an old Saturday morning action cartoon. Muhammad appears openly throughout the episode. At the time, Comedy Central broadcast it, repeated it, and released it on home video without creating a major public crisis. Everything changed after the controversy surrounding South Park's 200 and 201 in 2010. Comedy Central removed Super Best Friends from rerun rotation. It vanished from the official South Park website and was excluded from major digital stores and streaming platforms. The cartoon had not been altered. There had been no new complaint about its actual story. The surrounding political and security environment had changed. That makes Super Best Friends one of television's clearest examples of retroactive censorship. An episode considered acceptable when it premiered was later treated as if it had never been approved. Old DVDs became one of the few official ways to see it, turning an ordinary Season 5 episode into a forbidden collector's item. Number 4. South Park. Canada on Strike. Canada on Strike was never banned, but one of its jokes created a copyright lawsuit that became far more important than the episode itself. The story begins when Canada announces a national strike. Canadian leaders demand money from the internet, even though nobody can explain where internet money comes from or how it can be collected. To end the strike, the South Park children try to make Butters into a viral celebrity. They dress him in colorful costumes and record him performing a recreation of Samwell's internet song, What What. The sequence copies the original video's camera angles, dance movements, costumes, and simple visual style. But replacing the confident adult performer with innocent Butters changes the entire meaning. Butters does not understand why the song is funny, which becomes the joke. Brownmark Films, the company connected to the original video, sued Comedy Central and South Park's producers for copyright infringement. The company argued that the cartoon had copied too many recognizable elements. A federal judge dismissed the case, ruling that the sequence was an obvious parody protected by fair use. Brownmark appealed, but the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with South Park. The judges concluded that the episode used the viral video to criticize internet fame, meaningless online popularity, and the belief that millions of views automatically create real wealth. The decision became an important fair use ruling because the court ended the case early instead of forcing the producers through a long trial. South Park did not merely survive the lawsuit. It helped establish stronger legal protection for creators who transform existing internet material into clear commentary. The copied video became part of copyright law history. Number 3. The Simpsons. Stark Raving Dad. For almost 3 decades, Stark Raving Dad was considered a warm Simpsons classic. Then the show's own producers removed it from existence. The episode begins when Homer wears a pink shirt to work after Bart accidentally mixes a red cap into the white laundry. Mr. Burns assumes Homer is unstable and sends him to a mental institution. There, Homer meets Leon Kompowski, a large man who believes he is Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson secretly provided Leon's speaking voice, although another performer handled the singing. Homer invites Leon to stay with the family. Bart tells everyone that Michael Jackson is coming to Springfield, creating a huge crowd. When the townspeople realize Leon does not look like Jackson, they become furious. The episode's most famous scene comes near the ending. Bart has forgotten Lisa's birthday, so Leon helps him write and perform Happy Birthday, Lisa. The moment is gentle, emotional, and very different from the controversy that later surrounded it. In 2019, after the documentary Leaving Neverland renewed public discussion of allegations against Jackson, executive producer James L. Brooks announced that the episode would be withdrawn. It was removed from syndication, digital purchase, streaming services, and future physical releases. Disney Plus launched without it. The producers described the removal as their own decision, not an order forced on them by Disney. Unlike most banned cartoons, Stark Raving Dad does not contain an offensive attack or dangerous image. It disappeared because of the person connected to it. A famous episode, a popular song, and an important piece of Simpsons history were deliberately cut from the official collection by the people who had created them. Number 2. South Park, banned in China. South Park spent years joking about censorship. Banned in China finally caused an entire country to erase the show. The episode follows Randy Marsh as he travels to China, hoping to expand his business into a huge new market. Instead, authorities arrest him after discovering illegal products in his luggage. Randy is sent to a prison where he sees famous fictional characters who have also been restricted by Chinese censors. Meanwhile, Stan forms a music group and attracts the attention of a film producer. Every time the band creates something, the script must be changed to satisfy Chinese officials. References to politics, religion, and personal freedom are removed until the movie no longer says anything meaningful. The episode's most famous scene places Randy beside Winnie the Pooh. The character had become politically sensitive in China because internet users compared him with President Xi Jinping. Randy's meeting with Pooh turns the censorship joke into a direct challenge. Banned in China also criticizes Western entertainment companies that change movies and television programs to protect access to Chinese audiences. Stan eventually declares that anyone who changes their art for money is not worth respecting. After the episode aired in October 2019, South Park content reportedly disappeared from major Chinese streaming services, social media discussions, video sites, and fan pages. Creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone responded with a fake apology that mocked the demand for silence. They said they welcomed Chinese censors into their homes and joked about valuing money more than freedom. The episode's title was a play on Banned in China. Then China completed the joke by banning South Park. Few cartoons have ever predicted their own punishment so accurately. Number 1. South Park, 200 and 201. No adult cartoon was censored more aggressively than South Park's 200th episode celebration. In 200, nearly every celebrity South Park has ever mocked arrives in town seeking revenge. Tom Cruise offers to end the lawsuit if the residents can deliver the Prophet Muhammad. The celebrities believe Muhammad possesses a special power that prevents people from making fun of him. They want to steal that protection so nobody can joke about them again. The story becomes a giant reunion of old characters and controversies. Mecca Streisand returns, religious figures gather, and Cartman searches for the truth about his father. Muhammad is hidden inside a bear costume as the town tries to avoid showing him directly. Before 201 aired, an extremist website posted a warning mentioning creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone and referenced the killing of filmmaker Theo Van Gogh. Comedy Central responded by changing the completed episode. Muhammad was covered by a large censorship block. His name was bleeped. Even Kyle's final speech about fear and intimidation was replaced by continuous audio censorship, despite the speech not attacking Islam. Parker and Stone publicly explained that the bleeps were not part of their joke. Comedy Central had added them. The uncensored version was not placed on the official website. 200 and 201 then disappeared from reruns, digital stores, and streaming services. They were also excluded from some later releases. Along with 3 earlier episodes, they became part of South Park's Forbidden 5. The most controversial part was not an image. It was the removal of a speech, explaining that threats become powerful when people surrender to them. The network's censorship accidentally proved the speech correct, which is why these episodes remain the most infamous erased cartoons in television history. Were these cartoons genuinely too dangerous, or did frightened networks turn ordinary episodes into forbidden legends? Once television erases something, curiosity only becomes stronger. Comment below with the banned cartoon you think should return, and tell us which episode went too far. Like the video, share it with another animation fan, and subscribe for more forgotten films, hidden shows, and television stories the studios hoped nobody would ever uncover.